Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
I remember being at a networking event years ago, pre-pandemic. It was one of those big rooms. I think it was Ohio Dominican University. You know the scene, a lot of chatter, name tags everywhere, so on and so forth. And there was this guy standing off to the side, and not awkward in a bad way, just quiet, observing, kind of taking it all in. Meanwhile, you had the working the room crowd, right? Handshakes flying, business cards being exchanged like poker chips. And if you were placing bet, you'd bet on the loud ones. You'd think those are the connectors, that, you know, the guy who's just kind of moving around the room and meeting all sorts of people. That would be the person who would be the winner at the event. But here's what happened. An hour later, I saw that quiet guy in a deep conversation with somebody. Not a surface level conversation. Not a what do you do conversation, not weather talk, real conversation. The kind of conversation where both people are leaning in, the kind of conversation where something actually begins, if you will. And it hit me. Maybe the best networkers aren't the ones making the most noise. Maybe they're the ones creating the most meaning, really leaning into and creating a relationship. To an extent, we've been sold on this idea that networking belongs to extroverts. I believed it forever. That is, networking is about charisma, volume, and working the room. I can remember times where I've been around those people and just like, oh my gosh, I cannot compete with this. But that's like thinking the best salesperson is the one who talks the most. And we all know that that's not how it works. The best connectors don't dominate conversations. They really deepen them. A few months ago, I got an email from somebody who'd been on the podcast, another networking colleague, if you will, a kindred spirit, Steve Spiro. And he shared with me a TED Talk that he did where he admittedly was this introvert. And he was trying to break out of this. It's a funny. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's a funny TED Talk. It's not real long. It's about 8-9 minutes, where he strikes up a conversation with somebody at the urinal. Guys, you'll get it. Obviously a very awkward moment. But it's that's not the whole TED Talk. But he kind of talks about how he worked himself out of being an introvert. Not that he's an extrovert, but just how he managed that. And then the reality is that connection is messy. It's never easy. When you go in to connect with somebody, we go in to build a relationship. It's not always easy. It sometimes doesn't go the way you want it to go. It can be a scary thing, but that's where growth is. Growth lives where fear is. And that's really the lesson, is that networking isn't clean. It's not scripted. It's not polished. It's not like learning. It's like learning golf. You don't start by whacking the ball straight down the middle of the fairway. There are a few that you slice, a few that you completely miss, but you keep swinging. It's just you keep practicing and practicing and practicing. Now, if you're an extrovert and you enjoy being out amongst people, then that's great. That's great. Lean into that. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing about this disparages someone who's an extrovert. But what it's intended to do, and Steve's TED Talk is intended to do, is to provide hope for people who are more introverted, if you will. And there's a trap that a lot of people can fall into, and they fall into, and I know I did early on as well. You see people out there who are very gregarious, and I have friends who are like this, and I need to be more like this. I need to be like this, and it's a trap. because I was trying to become a version of someone else, I guess, a different version of me. And it's just not me. It's just not me. Yeah, I'm like Steve. I, I'm introverted. I enjoy spending time alone. I recharge being alone. I go to networking events. It's not always comfortable for me to be at those networking events. I make the best of it. I try to do a good job at networking events, but I don't try to be something that I'm not. I don't try to be like some of my friends who are really, really outgoing, if you will. So whether you're an extrovert or an introvert or somewhere in between, just be that. But it's okay. It's okay whatever you are. You will make you'll do fine with that. You'll do fine with that. I read this on Facebook or Instagram. It's a little meme. It says you'll always be a second-rate version of somebody else, but you can be the first-rate version of yourself. And that's where your strength is, just being who you are. So the balance of this, I want to talk about why introverts win at connections. I see it as an advantage. I certainly see an advantage. Three advantages to it. Introverts listen differently. They're not waiting to talk. They're they're absorbing what's being said, kind of processing the information, figuring out what that next question is, how you can delve a little deeper. And I'm not the ultimate introvert, and I'm not the best at any of these things, but I see people out there like the guy I talked about in the opening who just sit back and kind of take it all in. And you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot observing others, listening to what they have to say, listening to their mannerisms, listening to their stories. You can find out what really matters to them, find out what their kids do or what their hobbies are, just by being that introvert and encouraging people to talk. And maybe it's not even necessarily being an introvert, but just being quiet and just and letting the other people, giving the other person space to think and to talk and to allow you to kind of gather information that you can act upon. And I don't mean that in a nefarious way, but how you can serve them. If you're always talking and never really listening, never really understanding what people are about, it becomes nearly impossible to serve them. But if you stop and you sit back and you let other people share about themselves, and I love people's stories. I love how people have navigated the world or their journey. It's just I love those stories. But in those stories, you can learn of different ways that you can serve people. And the third advantage, and Steve touches on this in his talk, is that introverts tend to go deep, not wide. And that's critical. Networking is not a numbers game. It's not a game of quantity, right? It's a game of quality. It's a game of going deep and really learning about people and really understanding where they're coming from and where they want to go. One meaningful relationship will beat 10 shallow ones. Listen to that again. One meaningful relationship will beat 10 shallow relationships. And Steve talks about that in his TED Talk. He talks about connecting with one struggling individual, not a crowd of people, not the whole room, but just one person. Staying in touch, investing time, listening, and really over time then transforming that relationship. And that's networking. It's not about collecting contacts. It's not about cultivating people. It's like planting a tree. You don't plant 100 seeds and walk away. You plant one. You water one. You nurture one. You grow one. And so here are 4 practical takeaways from this episode and certainly Steve's TED Talk. Again, I'll put that in the show notes. The first is lead with listening, right? Ask a meaningful question. When you're in a conversation with somebody, ask a meaningful question. I encourage you to plan ahead and not necessarily script it out, but have a litany of questions that you can use to go deep, to really understand people. One meaningful question, not 5 shallow ones. The second practical takeaway is follow up with intention. Be the one who's remembered. not a lot of people follow up. So as the person's talking, you learn about them. You should meet this person. I'm going to introduce you to so-and-so. Follow up. Do what you say you're going to do. And just follow through. You'll stand out with respect to that. The third is stop trying to meet everybody. Try to just know somebody. Don't meet everybody. You don't need to meet everybody. If my friend Berta Medina, she talks about this in her book, that when she goes to a networking event and there's 5 people, she aims to get 5 business cards. If she goes to a networking event and there's 100 people, she aims to get 5 business cards. Meaning she's not trying to meet that whole room. 1,000 people, 5 business cards. She's not looking to meet the whole room. So stop trying to meet everybody. Meet a few people, and then they'll help you meet the rest over time. And then the last thing is move at your own pace. Slower is not weaker. Sometimes it's wiser. Sometimes it's wiser just to go slower, meet some people, see where they're going to lead you. You have no idea. You have no idea where it's going to head. And sometimes when you go too fast, you miss things, and those things can be critical elements to the conversation, and certainly then critical elements to the relationship. Don't try to be the most interesting person in the room. Be the most interested person in the room. That's a shift, right? That's all of a sudden it's not about you, it's about them. And that's the difference between networking and connecting. That's the difference between just collecting cards and actually building relationships. So if you get a chance, go check out Steve's TED Talk. I'll put the link in the show notes. But let's go back to that room that I originally spoke of in the beginning. The loud voices, the fast handshake, the business cards flying, you know the drill, and then the quiet guy off to the side. If you looked quickly, you'd think he was losing, but he wasn't. He was doing something far more powerful. He wasn't working the room, he was looking to build relationships. And that's the truth. Relationships that matter. If you care about others, referrals will happen. If you care about others, real business will come your way. People don't refer to the loudest person they meet. They refer to the person that they trust. And trust isn't built in volume. It's not built in quantity of contacts. It's built in moments. It's built in quiet moments. It's built in quality relationships. It's built with intention. It's built with care. So the next time you walk into a room, whether there's a giant room or just maybe a small chapter meeting, don't try to be impressive. Don't try to be everywhere. Don't try to be loud. Just try to be present. Be curious. Be intentional. Because in the end, the future belongs to the people who listen, the people who care, and the people who put a high value on building relationships.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connections. All rights reserved.